United 1944 is one of the oddest first-person shooter games that I've played in a while. So I'm going to try to describe this in one sentence. It is an extraction shooter with crafting, base building, and an RPG skill unlock tree, all set for some reason in World War II with extremely bad gun balancing. And yeah, I know listening to that you're probably like, well, how do all those mechanics fit together? And the true answer is currently they kind of don't, but at the same time it's kind of a charming experience. So this week the game dropped into early access and it currently contains two modes, and we'll talk about both of them. There's the survival mode and the domination mode. Though if I'm being honest, I do hope that the survival mode is the main mode they plan on expanding on, because this is the mode that I could see actually becoming pretty decent, as the domination mode is sort of just a COD ripoff, and therefore it's like pretty average. Sadly, the game right now is pretty dead even just a couple days after launch, so it is hard for me to recommend that you buy the game because it's like $30 on Steam, but I could see this being somewhat enjoyable in the future if it had more players or maybe after a full release, but you do still probably have to be willing to play a pretty weird experience for a first-person shooter. It is worth noting that as I was working on this video, survival has more players than domination, which probably plays to my point that it's probably the better of the two, although it's probably less finished and in need of more kind of updates and content than domination is. But domination, even though it feels more complete, is just not very fun. So before we talk about the game modes and all the mechanics, let me just kind of run down some random stuff. So this game, like I said, it costs you $30, and that's it. There's no microtransactions in the game, at least currently. All of the overarching unlocks in this game are cosmetic, and they're all based around these weekly missions that you can do, and they give you these coins, and you can use those to unlock different skins and outfits for your cute little World War II guy. The game currently has 13 different weapon slots, though the first of them are called makeshift weapons, and that's the pistol, the shotgun, the rifle, and the SMG, and these are basically just your starter tier weapon that you build at the start of the game. But the other weapon classes, range from pistols, shotguns, there's the semi-auto rifle, snipers, SMGs, light machine guns, medium machine guns, and then there's the launchers, and then you can even get a knife, and there is a hammer, though you don't actually really attack anyone with that. It does horrific damage if you try to. Now, each of these categories has one base gun that you can use by unlocking it during the game. However, there is a second gun in each of those classes that you can unlock by getting a certain amount of kills with the weapon in that class. Now, I haven't unlocked any of these second guns because they actually take a good amount of kills, but I would imagine once you unlock them, you could then build either of them in the game once you unlock that kind of section on the RPG skill tree. And we're going to talk a lot about the RPG skill tree because it's kind of one of the main mechanics of this game. But before we do, let me just give you the basis of how the two game modes work. Domination is domination. It's basically Call of Duty domination. I'm sure you've all played Call of Duty, but for some reason, instead of having 3 points, it has like 10, and I'm not too sure why. It's kind of weird. The maps are huge. You just do a lot of running around looking for things to do, but you level up by getting kills, capturing objectives, etc. Now the survival mode is kind of, like I said, the main mode, and this itself is a bog standard survival mode, with the main gameplay loop being you run around and you hit these safes with a hammer, which then pings everyone nearby to tell them that you're hammering the thing, and eventually it breaks open, and you can either collect 3 of those files to build a command post, or once you have a command post, you can take those files back to your command post to gain experience. This experience lets you level up and go through the RPG skill tree, which we're going to talk about. Now, the command post also acts as a respawn beacon during the game, and since it is a survival game, you lose basically everything upon death except your primary weapon, though the weapons in this game do have durability, so you can't just keep respawning with the same weapon over and over and over. Eventually it will break, and eventually you will have to go and craft something new. Now, the main goal that I can see from the survival mode currently is basically just play until you get bored. You can extract items like perk blueprints once you hit level 5, or you are able to extract you and your squad at level 10, but I don't really see what you're extracting because every time you launch into a new survival mode, you are back at level 1, starting fresh. So while you can extract currently in the game today, I'm not really quite sure why. There's like treasures and stuff that you can find, but you're not extracting like cool weapon variants or anything like that you can bring back into the next game. Because part of the problem is these are persistent servers. They're not like matchmaking games you're thrown into. So you can join a server that people have already been playing on for hours, and they might already be level 10 or level 15 and have a bunch of unlocks and a bunch of weapons, and you basically have to play catch up the entire time until you get bored and decide to leave, or until they get bored and decide to leave. So survival is kind of just a sandbox right now. You basically just run around and play the game. You get to level up and build new things during the game, unlock new weapons, but for the most part the goal is either get the intel from the safes to level up more, or just run around and kill people. And I did a decent mixture of that. When I was playing, I was dedicated to extracting, so I spent about 2 hours on a single server just to be able to hit level 10 to extract. Now, I was playing by myself, which makes it a lot harder because the survival mode is actually up to 3-person squads. However, you can also play it solo or duo, but since this game probably doesn't really have a player base, and it's also more of a server browser instead of matchmaking, if you're playing by yourself, you're just a solo. It doesn't match you with 2 other solo players, and so playing by yourself in this game is actually just a huge detriment. It will be harder for you to survive compared to people who join the server with 2 of their buddies. Now, when you're playing this game mode and you're running around, there's a lot of gameplay mechanics that make it an interesting game, though I'm not sure if it's like the best game in the world. But basically, you have the RPG skill tree, you have crafting, and you have base building. So every time you gain experience, either by killing people or taking intel back to your command post, you gain experience towards leveling up. Every time you level up, you can acquire a new point on the skill tree. This is how you unlock different blueprints for things that you can craft, everything from new weapons, so you can go through and unlock all the different weapon classes that we talked about earlier, like the sniper and the SMG, or you can get various perks. There's things that just make your character better, or give you more stamina, lets you hold your breath longer when you're sniping. There's the whole recon perk tree, which lets you kind of, be able to find people easier or do stuff like that. There's the support tree, so you can get like medical syringes instead of bandages, and various other perks that'll help you out. Or you can get like a bigger backpack, which is nice for carrying around all the materials. And then there's the engineer tree, which is where you get all the base building mechanics. This is how you build walls and doors and traps. And if you really want to build a little fort, this is the tree you're gonna want to be leveling. Now, you will see, looking at the RPG tree, you do have to hit certain levels to be able to unlock certain skills in the tree, and sometimes, you have to unlock a specific one before you unlock the next one, which is, bog standard for an RPG skill tree. But that is mostly the gameplay loop, You run around, you kill people, you level up, you get new things that you can build, you go and you try and find materials, you build those things, and you play until you get bored. Now, the gameplay itself isn't amazing. The gunplay is kind of underwhelming, and the balancing for the weapons is pretty not great in my opinion. For example, the sniper and the semi-auto are probably some of the best weapons. The sniper is a one-shot headshot regardless of how far people are, and there isn't bullet travel or anything like that, so you can just dome people really far away, even when you're just camping in a building somewhere. And that can be pretty frustrating if you're just walking down the street, picking up some materials, and some sniper just domes you from across the map. But besides the sniper being a one-shot kill, the rest of the guns do have a fairly high time to kill, which makes that sniper one-shot even more powerful. Now, when you're playing the game, there are currently 3 different maps that you can play on, so there's not a whole ton of variety, and each of the maps is very big. So if you're playing domination, the points are spread all over the place, you're going to be moving a lot, and if you're playing the survival mode, the map is pretty big to allow you to have some space to basically be able to play the game. The survival lobbies are up to 24 players, and if you actually have a full server, I'm sure it's an absolute blast, but it is hard to find servers that are even close to full. Unfortunately, because this is an early access game, charging $30 by an indie developer that isn't very big with no publisher, so the game just doesn't have very many players on it. You will find that the survival mode, I played it by running around, trying to gather that intel for experience and also just run around and chase kills, but it can be extremely campy if people want it to be. There was a dude in my lobby that sat in the same 3-story building literally the entire 2 hours I was playing on that server, and all he did was snipe people from the top. I assume maybe his command post was nearby, because even if you sniped him out of the building, he would always just end up back up there, and he had doors and walls set up, and even if you got through all of that, he had traps set up, so he basically just holed up in a building like the entire time. And the game really doesn't punish that, because like I said, it's not like you're extracting every game. It's not like a normal extraction shooter where there's a time limit or a circle or anything like that. You basically just plop into the lobby and kind of do whatever you want until you get bored. Now, while I'm kind of ripping on the game, it is kind of fun. Like, I did have fun kind of running around, shooting people. There's proximity chat, which is actually pretty fun because you can talk to all the people in your survival lobbies, or if you're playing domination, I think you can talk to the people nearby. So you will have kind of those fun proximity chat moments where you down someone and you're talking to them, and maybe you're talking some crap, and then maybe they respawn and come back and try and hunt you. But overall, the game just isn't that great. I think if the game was free, it probably would have had more players trying it out, and I think that would have helped the game feel better because there would have been more people playing these modes. But right now, the game's just dead. And with it being multiplayer only, it's almost a waste of your $30 in its current state. Now, hopefully they're able to improve the game, and maybe as it gets closer to a full release, they'll do a marketing campaign, or if it ever goes free to play, maybe it'll have more players, and that's probably when the game is at least worth trying. But in its current state, I can't really recommend it, though I did enjoy the little bit that I played. And that's pretty much United 1944. If you're a big World War II person, this is a new World War II shooter. It doesn't really have a World War II feeling. It kind of just feels like a World War II skin slapped on a game. But then again, COD does that too, so who knows. Hope you enjoyed the video. See you all next time.